Okay, well, this isn't really funny, but like, it's funny looking back on it, but like, I was horrified, but he thought it was hilarious. I was terrified of the basement, right? For my 10th birthday, I had a sleepover. It was High School Musical themed, it was awesome, and I had a bunch of my friends sleep over, and in classic 10-year-old girl fashion, we played Bloody Mary in my basement bathroom. I was too wuss to actually go in and do it, but seeing all my friends running out of the bathroom screaming was enough for me to be terrified of my basement for the rest of time. Years later, I was still kind of spooked by the basement. I had to go downstairs and grab something, and I asked my dad if he could walk downstairs with me. And he was like, really? Oh, okay, sure, whatever. As we were walking down the stairs, at the bottom, there was this kind of rail of clothing, of just like Halloween costumes and stuff. When we walked past this section of clothing, he grabbed one of the costumes and like pulled it out and was just like, "Wah!" He thought it was just gonna be a little jump scare. My ass screamed throughout the fucking house. I screamed bloody murder, and he immediately was like, oh no, shit. He felt so bad. I woke my little brother up. My mom was like, what's going on? And my dad was like, I just traumatized our daughter yet again. She will continue to not go to the basement. He was really funny. He was a funny guy. We got a dog when I was in 7th grade. I remember my dad didn't want us to get a dog, but my mom did. Me and my brother and my mom went to go get a dog, and I guess my mom didn't tell my dad about it, because when he came home, there was a dog. And at first he was like, wait, what? I think this happens to most dads who don't want dogs. He ended up fucking loving that dog, and they were like best buds. My mom was the one who trained it, but my dad was like the nice cop, you know? It was like good cop, bad cop. My dad would always like go and like give him butt scratches and like, you know, play with him and stuff. And it was a dog named Mario. It was a Wednesday night, October 24th, 2012. I was quote unquote doing homework, but I wasn't actually doing homework. I was playing Skyrim, and I really wanted to like complete this quest in Skyrim, but I had my homework laid out again, like in front of me, pretending like I was doing it. Mainly if my mom came down so that I could turn off the TV and pretend to be doing homework. But I heard my dad coming down the stairs, and normally it's not a big deal if he catches me playing video games because he doesn't really care. But lately he'd kind of been on my ass about, you know, like, oh, yo, like, you know, make sure you do your homework before you play video games. You know, you want to get that shit done. You know, so I didn't want to disappoint him. So I turned the TV off really fast, and I was pretending to do my homework. And the TV makes like a boom sound when you turn it off, so I'm sure he probably heard me turning the TV off. So he probably knew that I wasn't actually doing my homework. But he came downstairs anyways, and he was like, hey, Lowrhen, there's this new TV show that is coming out tonight. It's called The Green Arrow. We used to watch TV shows a lot together. We would have a show that we would watch all the time. We hadn't done that in several years, and so he wanted to kind of like connect with me again and, you know, watch stuff together and have our show, because it was always our show. I was interested in it, obviously. Of course I would be down to watch TV with my dad, but I really wanted to finish that goddamn quest in Skyrim. I, you know, like any other teenage girl, lied and said, oh no, I have to finish my homework. I have something due tomorrow. Sorry, we can watch it this weekend. And my dad just said, oh, and then went back upstairs. Because he knew I wasn't doing homework. So I had the chance to spend the last night on this earth with my dad watching TV, but instead I played Skyrim. It's funny because that weekend I had a choir retreat where parents could send you letters. That night, after I told him no to watching that show with him, he actually went upstairs and wrote a letter instead to send to me on the choir retreat that weekend. So while I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to him, and his last words to me were, oh, sadly, Um, he wrote a letter to me the night before he died. And it's dated October 24th, 2012. And it's just a letter about how much he loves me and how proud he is of me and how he thinks I'm going to do really great things. And it's kind of crazy, the coincidences, the coincidences that happen like that, you know? Because he didn't know he was going to die in a freak accident the next day, but he ended up writing a really nice letter to his daughter anyways, and I cherish that thing so much. The next day, he had to leave early for work. Normally he drove me to school, but he couldn't that day. The day was normal. I had dance team practice that night. It was great. It was fun. I was, you know, the usual bubbly kid, you know? I was 15 years old and in high school, and life was completely normal. My aunt came and picked me up from practice. I was really excited because she never picks me up from practice, ever. That was cool. I didn't really think twice about it. I didn't even really ask why. I was just like, cool, because she said she was picking me up. And I remember her talking to the coaches, and they kind of like looked at me. But for some reason, I just didn't second guess it. And so on the drive home, I was just talking to her about how my day was, and I was just, you know, super excited because it's like one of my favorite aunts, dude. She was awesome. She is awesome. When we get to my house, I see there's a bunch of cars in the driveway. And so we park on the side of the road. And that's when I get confused. And I'm like, why are there so many cars here? What's going on? And my aunt kind of like looks uncomfortable and just says, let's just go inside. So when I'm walking up the driveway, I think to myself, my dad died. I don't know why, I just knew. I just remember realizing, yeah, no, my dad died. So I open the door to my house, and my entire extended family is in the main entryway. They all turn and look at me, and it's honestly, it feels like a blur, like the memory, because there's just so much. And my grandma, touched my shoulder, and like some of my other aunts were there and everything. Before I even have a chance to really process anything, I step through the doorway and I look around, and my first words are, "Where's my dad?" After saying that, I hear my little brother, who is on the floor. He was 11 years old. He just starts wailing. And then my grandma turns to me and she tells me, "Lowrhen, at work today, your dad was on a ladder and he fell off and he died instantly." I remember just being in shock. And they had me go and sit down on the couch, and I just felt uncomfortable. It just felt like there was so many people there, and I ended up just leaving. I walked out of the house, and we always used to go on walks when I was a kid and sit at this park bench. It was the top of a hill, and it was just this bench at the top of this hill with a tree. And I had people come and talk to me. Out of people, like my childhood, like my friends were there somehow. They had heard. They were there. My friends' parents were there. Obviously, they weren't all coming up to the bench at once, but they would come and, occasionally sit down and just talk to me or just be with me. But it was also such a blur. Eventually, they brought me back inside, and I remember wanting to go to school the next day because I wanted to see my friends, and I wanted everything to be normal. I didn't want to be at the house because it just felt like a lot.
How was your mom?
She was just, I think, like crying. I remember being a bit annoyed because at the time that my dad died, my mom and my dad weren't in a super good place. Several years before, my dad moved out, actually, and was filing for divorce because he was frankly tired of living with her. in court, my mom fought back really hard and wouldn't let us see him and wouldn't let us choose to live with him or anything. And finally, my dad gave up because he wanted to see us and he didn't want us to, grow up without him. So he moved back in and was kind of just dealing with my mom for the time being. At the funeral, I saw how many people were there and how many people were, coming. I was standing by the door, greeting them as they came in, as if I was like a hostess or something, thanking them for coming. Because I felt bad that no one else in the family was doing that, and there was all these people who were here for us and for him, but like a lot of like the people who were here, like some of them were just like my choir class came. Like I stood there and said hello to everyone, and I was just smiling. We sat in the front row, and I didn't cry at all. I think it just hadn't processed yet. I didn't cry for quite a while. It wasn't until like several months later where I actually finally broke down. And after that, I was a mess. I would walk out of class just because I couldn't take it anymore. I would just go into the bathroom and cry, and there was a specific bathroom that no one ever really went to, and I would just go in there just to be alone. The anniversary of his death is coming up this October. But it's going to be the 10th anniversary. He died in October 25th, 2012. It's going to be October 2022. Time flies really fast. It's weird. I have changed and grown so much since I was 15, but at the same time, how has it already been 10 years? But yeah. Fuck. Good timing. I'm glad I went through the whole thing without that happening. Shit. I can't dribble! Fuck you. Like, even 10 years later now, I'm still missing a part of myself. Obviously, his car was still in the driveway, but it hadn't moved, and it kind of slowly collected, dust and such. In general, things just there where he left it, and never moving again. Reminders, notes, shoes set out to wear the next day. I didn't end up going to choir retreat thing, and that's why my mom ended up just giving me the letter that he wrote. Opening that letter was really surreal, because like, who gets a letter from their parent after they die in a freak accident? It's just weird. Like, I look back on it and it doesn't feel like it's really my life. Like, I think back to all of those times, and I feel like, in a sense, I'm almost looking at it from an outside perspective, because I was so disassociated at that time. Recently, my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer. I was told in, like, June this year. She took me out to lunch. She was being really nice, and so I was like, okay, something's up. But she was also being kind of, like, really sad when she, like, wanted to bring it up. And I was kind of worried, and, then she told me that, she has breast cancer, but it's, only stage 1, and it's not too bad. It felt kind of a surreal moment, similar to back when my dad died again. In a way, here we go again. She told me not to tell my little brother, because he had to finish his finals, and she didn't want him to worry. But in a way, it's kind of funny, because, my brother got told first when he was 11 about my dad, and I guess I got told first when when I was older about my mom, so I guess we're even. My mom had surgery that week that my brother was in finals, and so I had to stay at her house overnight for a few nights and take care of her. That Friday, my mom still wasn't recovered, so I ended up moving my little brother out of his dorm room by myself, and then I ended up having to be the one to tell him that mom had cancer, or has cancer. It was hard for both of us because we've both been through something traumatic like that before. And so we're both kind of used to how we have learned to respond as siblings to it. And our response is just to kind of like not talk too in detail about our feelings. Like, we're really close, but we don't talk about our feelings to each other because it's like we both understand just innately how it is because we're both going through it. And he was pretty shocked. He asked when she found out and how the surgery went when I told him that she had surgery when he was in his finals. He asked how bad it was, and I told him that it's actually not too bad, so he was pretty relieved about that. It's only stage 1 breast cancer. And at the time, we only thought that she had to do surgery and that would be the end of it. She ended up having to do chemo as well, and so she's currently going through chemo right now. She's doing all right, and the cancer is essentially gone, so the chemo is just to make sure it doesn't come back. Since my brother's turning 21 this month, actually in like a few days, it's cool being adults together now and being able to just kind of be like, yeah, the past 10 years have been crazy, but it's our life, and at least we have each other, you know? Like,
If you could tell everybody in the world one thing, what would it be?
keep going. It gets better. It will get better. It may take a while. And I know it's hard to wait, because you just want to feel better now. And things feel slow, and it may get better and they get worse again, but keep trying and keep going, and don't give up. Sorry for getting emotional.
Don't even worry about it.
Thank you for being a dank-ass friend.
Yeah, I'm pretty great.
I appreciate you a lot. I don't mean to get sappy or anything, but like...